Princess Leonore's grand wedding shocks the world. See what happened. The cathedral bells rang out across Madrid, their sound rolling through ancient streets and over crowded plazas. It was a familiar melody for the Spanish people, a sound tied to tradition, faith, and ceremony. Everyone expected the grandeur of a royal wedding, a carefully choreographed display of elegance and protocol, as Princess Leonor, the heir to the throne, prepared to marry before the watching world. But then, something happened that no one had predicted. What should have been a flawless ceremony unfolded into a story of raw emotion, personal choice, and surprising revelations that shook not just Spain, but the entire globe. Because Princess Leonore's grand wedding was not simply another royal pageant. It became a declaration of love, defiance, and humanity, a moment where duty and the heart collided in the most unexpected way. The world had watched Leonor grow from a quiet young girl, standing shyly beside her parents, into the confident future Queen of Spain. She had given speeches that showed wisdom beyond her years, carried herself with dignity under immense pressure, and shouldered the weight of a nation's hopes. But no one could have imagined how she would transform on this day, her wedding day, when all eyes were on her. From the very beginning, the ceremony felt different. Crowds had gathered for miles, flags of Spain waved proudly, and the Danish colors blended into the sea of celebration. The union between Leonor and Prince Christian was more than romance, it was a joining of two dynasties, Spain and Denmark, a bridge between two royal traditions that stretched back centuries. The setting was magnificent. Golden candelabras, white roses trailing down the aisles, and stained glass windows casting rainbow light over the guests. Leonor entered the cathedral with grace, her gown shimmering with hand-stitched embroidery that told the story of Spain's history. But as she walked slowly down the aisle, her eyes glistened with something that startled even those closest to her. She looked less like a princess fulfilling her duty, and more like a young woman daring to live her truth. That difference became the heartbeat of the day. When the vows began, whispers filled the air. Leonor's words, though crafted with care, carried emotion that broke past formality. She spoke not just as heir to the throne, but as Leonor, the woman who had chosen love over expectation. Her voice trembled at first, then grew steady, resonating across the cathedral. Guests who expected a standard declaration of unity instead felt an intimacy so profound it left them breathless. And then came the moment that shocked the world. After exchanging vows, Leonor and Christian paused, longer than tradition allowed. They held each other's gaze in silence, as though communicating something beyond words. In that pause was defiance. In that pause was love. And in that pause, history shifted. But what drove Leonor to this? To understand, we return to her upbringing. She was not just raised to be queen, she was raised to embody Spain itself. Yet behind the lessons, the discipline, and the watchful eyes of the monarchy, Leonor held onto her individuality. In Christian, she found not just a partner, but someone who understood what it meant to be seen not as a symbol, but as a person. Their bond grew in quiet spaces, away from public scrutiny, built on trust and understanding. When the ceremony concluded, the eruption of cheers outside the cathedral was unlike anything Madrid had heard before. Yet inside, there was another story, one of tension and transformation. King Felipe and Queen Letizia exchanged glances that spoke volumes, pride, relief, and perhaps even surprise. They knew their daughter had taken control of her own destiny, even while securing the monarchy's future. The reception glittered with majesty. Tables overflowed with delicacies from across Spain, chandeliers bathed the hall in golden light, and music filled the air. But once again, the emotional undercurrent set this wedding apart. Speeches were given by dignitaries, but it was the words of Leonor's sister, Infanta Sofia, that brought tears to every eye. She spoke of Leonor not just as a future queen, but as her sister, the girl she had laughed with, fought with, and admired her whole life. It was a reminder that beneath the crown, Leonor was flesh and blood, human and deeply loved. And yet, the story doesn't end there. As night fell and fireworks painted the sky above Madrid, journalists and royal experts debated what this wedding meant for the monarchy. Had Leonor's emotional defiance weakened tradition, or had it breathed new life into it? Would her marriage to Christian strengthen Spain's place in Europe, or complicate loyalties between two thrones? These questions formed a chain of speculation that only deepened the intrigue. But the people knew what they felt. Across Spain, from small villages to bustling cities, citizens embraced the idea that their future queen was not just a figurehead, but a woman with courage, with heart, with vision. For them, this wedding wasn't a scandal. It was a triumph. As the couple departed the palace hand in hand, their silhouettes framed by centuries of history, there was no mistaking the power of the day. This was not just a royal wedding. It was a story that transcended crowns and titles, a reminder that love still carries the power to shock, to move, and to unite. And so, Princess Leonore's grand wedding will be remembered not for its perfection, but for its humanity. For the way it revealed the heart behind the crown. For the way it showed that even in the oldest traditions, new stories can be written. Because on this day, the world did not just witness a ceremony. It witnessed a revelation. A moment where a young woman, destined for the throne, chose to remind us all that even royalty must bow to the truth of love. And that is why Princess Leonore's grand wedding shocked the world. Not with scandal, but with sincerity. Not with spectacle alone, but with soul. And in doing so, it has secured its place as one of the most unforgettable chapters in modern royal history.